training camp. This is one of those times when you actually fear having to do your job. Now, for me, I know this because, we all, we talk. Athletes talk. And one of the things we always talked about when I'd run into other football players when I was playing, when we'd be out, like whether see them on a vacation or something like that, one of the things we always talk about, always comes up is, hey man, what's y'all's training camp like? And that comes up because training camp is the most physically demanding part of the football season. It is the most physically and mentally challenging part of the football season, but it's necessary in order to get you ready to play at football shape, because being in football shape is a weird kind of thing to be in. It's not the same as being in shape. You train for 18 weeks during the summertime. Train for 18 weeks to get ready for training camp. And without fail, every year, without fail, the first day of training camp, when you think you're in good enough shape to come out here and actually practice football, the first day of training camp, after you're done with practice, your legs are dead. You feel sore as hell. Feels like you got cinder blocks for legs. Same thing during the first day of OTAs. You've trained for 8 weeks. You start doing OTAs. Boom. First day, you feel like you didn't train at all to get ready for any of this. And why even work out for 8 weeks if this is how you're going to feel when you step on the field to practice? It is a shock to your nervous system, a shock to your entire body to go in and start training camp. Often, players in the lead up to training camp, because there's about a month of downtime before training camp starts, often fear and nervousness will just flash over you the moment you think about training camp in those last 30 days. Every single player has a timer in the back of their head, whether they're on vacation during that month, whether they're working out during that month, whether they're, hanging out at home. Every day you wake up, and as soon as you sit up in your bed, shit, 3 weeks left till training camp. That's the first thing you hear in the back of your head. And then that last week before training camp, 7 days till training camp. And as soon as you think that, you get butterflies in your stomach. That's what training camp does to players. Every NFL player that you'll speak to, you ask them what's the one thing that they do not miss, and it will be training camp. Anxiety, nervousness, like it's all a part of it, getting ready for training camp. And then you get to training camp and you're like, oh my God, we're in training camp. And you're looking through your itinerary and you're like, oh my God, we're going for literally 12 hours straight tomorrow. From 7 in the morning all the way through. We don't get out of this facility until 10:30 at night. Training camp is a bitch. Training camp is the bitch. I don't know anybody whoever, and veterans, even, as a young player, it's the worst thing imaginable. But even as a veteran, it's still like, it's a grind. It becomes a grind. It starts off, you're able to as a vet, I was always able to start fast, be ready to go. I was always full steam ahead to start training camp. Though that's never the problem. The problem is once you get to that 10 to 12 day mark in a row of all this shit, and you're still 2 weeks away from the first preseason game. And the itinerary is not changing. It's still special teams in the morning, meetings, practice or walkthroughs, lunch, meetings, practice. And in Jacksonville, we didn't start practices. My rookie year, we didn't start our practices till 7 p.m. at night because it was so damn hot. But you knew you were at the halfway mark when we had the one daytime practice, the one practice at noon. My God, this was the only memory I have from my rookie year in training camp. This is the only memory. Well, this and when I completely had a body cramp on the first day of full pads and they had to cart my ass off the field before we even finished 9-on-7 because I was went into complete cramps. That was day one of full pads. When I think about what really sums up just the entire misery that surrounds training camp, the dog days of training camp, this is the memory. The situation is this. Our schedule says that we are having one practice this day. And this was in 2007, so we were having 2 practices a day. We'd have a practice in the morning with shoulder pads and shorts, then we'd have the practice at night and full pads. So this was a break in our regular routine. This was different. So we were going to have this practice on Wednesday, and instead of it being a morning practice, instead of it being our regular 7 p.m. practice, this practice was at 12 noon. 12 noon on a day when it was 110 degrees on the field. 12 noon when there were no clouds in the sky anywhere. No wind, no breeze, just pure, unadulterated, St. John's River surrounded heat and humidity. This practice, once we got done, the stipulation was we'll have this practice, and if it's a good practice, then we'd have the rest of the day off. And in the evening, we would do a luau. They'd cook us some good food. They got some people. They got a company coming in doing catering, bringing some Hawaiian food, everything. So, of course, don't nobody give a fuck about that. We just looking at the time on the itinerary, like, why are we going to practice at 12 noon, the hottest point of the day? We almost practiced for 3 hours, and I'll never forget, because this is the only part of that practice that I literally can visualize and remember. We're in our 9-on-7 running drill. There is nobody saying anything. We're in the huddle. It's totally quiet. We get to the line of scrimmage. It's totally quiet. Maybe I just couldn't hear nothing because I was just in such a traumatic state. But I'm literally coming off the line of scrimmage on a run play. Justin Durant is lined up over me at linebacker. He's 5-6 yards back. This is the clearest memory I have. I come off the line. I'm running up to block Justin Durant. We hit each other. And a part of me, like, remembers vividly, we locked eyes while I'm trying to block him, while he's trying to get off the block. And there's literally no emotion. There's nothing but misery in his eyes. Nothing but a straight look of like glossed over eyes that have no idea what is going on. We fall to the ground, and I swear we hit the ground, and I just hear like this humming. Like, you know, when you hear sometimes you pop your ears and you hear like the ringing that just kind of goes on for like 10, 15 seconds. I'm laying on the ground. He's laying next to me on the ground. We're looking at each other in the eyes. And then we just take a deep breath. And then we just turn and start walking back to the huddle. It was so miserable. I couldn't hear anything anybody was saying. Only thing that I could see was the sun and feel the sun beaming down directly over us. There were no clouds in the sky, have you? There was no wind. It was literally, the ground was dry as shit. The grass was just dust now. We were just kicking dirt up on each other. It was miserable. And after that practice, when we all got back to the locker room, it was dead quiet in the locker room. I remember that. It was dead quiet. Nobody said shit. Everybody was tired. And that is what instilled the fear in me that I would always have when we got ready for training camp every year of my career. Even though I knew I was ready and I could handle it and I'm fine, even knowing that, Just the countdown to having to face down that kind of stress and anguish and pain and just grind. That grind that is so big that it literally takes a chunk of your soul to be able to do it and finish it. That's what puts that fear in you, because it's a never-ending cycle. The moment training camp ends, you know you got it again next year.